think we we need to make a start. Oh, hi, Edward. So we need to make a start. I happen to know that we only have, unless anybody else has, just 2 formal apologies, and I think the attendance rate by the councillors on the group is appalling. And I'm going to raise it with the group leaders because people chose to come on to the task and finish group on the basis that they were going to make a contribution. And this has stopped other people that wanted to come on because we had to limit the numbers from taking part. So I'm going to take it up with Hazel and with Amjad and with the Conservative group leader to say that this is just not good enough. This is not the way to carry on and do an important task that we're trying to do for the town centre. But my thanks is to the councillors and to the cooperative members that have actually come tonight so far. Please.
Before I give apologies, I do understand your concerns, but today's meeting is in August, so tend to have a tradition of trying to avoid meetings in August, but the Leeds visit was set during a working day, so you got to understand that members have jobs. Like myself, I work in a school, so I wasn't able to make it. So and that's what you got to bear in mind, Chair. And I give apologies for Councillor Alia Khan, please.
Ringing me to say also she wouldn't have come. It's not, Councillor Hanif, it's not just that, it's some of the other trips and things that we've been trying to organise in other meetings. The attendance hasn't been that good for what is actually a very important meeting. But anyway, that's to go outside of this meeting now. So welcome to everybody anyway, to this evening's task and finish group. This meeting is open to the public, who are welcome to attend. They could either in person or online. I don't know whether we've had anybody coming online.
Julia.
Oh, Julia. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio record, and report on all public meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies, Regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Notice of these rights will be given verbally at the meeting as appropriate. The emergency evacuation procedure is as follows for the council chamber. Turn left, follow the green emergency exit signs to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St. George's Square. So if I could then please move us on to apologies for absence, Angela.
Yes, Chair. Apologies have been received from councillors Ambia and Alia Khan.
I'd like then please to take us to the minutes of the 15th of May. I will just quickly take them page by page, if I may, just in case anybody has any items that they wish to raise. So let me please start with page 6, page 7, page 8. I do have a point, an issue actually, and if I could direct it towards Sinead. I have mentioned before that the wraparound on the AB Cinema, which has been placed back, but all around it and above it, there are graffiti over the windows and broken windows, and it just completely undermines what we have tried to do by doing the wraparound. Somebody said that this would be looked into. As far as I could see today, it was still the same as it was.
I'll go back and speak to my colleague Louise, who was looking into that. I haven't had an update, but I'll feed back to you by email if that's okay.
Page 9, page 10, page 11. I also had a point here, but obviously we have nobody from the bus side here, so I don't know if somebody could take it back. We were asked if it was possible to have more nighttime buses. And the point was, if this was to be trialled, there may be funds available this year for 2 to 3 month period. There has been no follow-up to that message, and nobody from buses is here, so I'm not quite sure how we go forward on that. Please.
We have been trialling additional night services or as part of our work that we were doing over the summer programs, where we've been doing the discounted bus fares, and we should have some data coming from that around if there's been a bigger take up, and that we can have a better conversation with our bus services. So I'll pick that up with Steve Lane, and hopefully we can feed that into your next meeting.
Page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15. Since there are no other points, I will sign those off then. Thank you. I'd like now to move us to first main item on the agenda, which is the nighttime economy consultation feedback. Corey, are you going to lead us into this, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'll just give a brief introduction, and then Eddie's going to take us through the data. So members will remember that in the meeting in March, we agreed to carry out an in-depth consultation process to talk to residents and businesses to get their views about the nighttime economy. That consisted of a few different elements. So an online consultation aimed at residents and an online consultation aimed at local businesses as well that operate in the nighttime economy. We also carried out a series of in-person events in the town as well, which were just pop-up events to be able to speak to residents, members of the public, potentially businesses as well, to get verbal views and feedback from them. Happy to report we had a very strong response rate, so over 1,000 responses directly to the online consultation. We also had, as I say, a number of in-person events. So we had some detailed events with businesses, with students at the University of Bedfordshire as well. And then just from those pop-up events also, we spoke to many people as well and got their views. Some of those people then went away and did the online consultation. Some of them gave us written responses when they were there. So we've got 35 written responses as well. So just before I hand over to Eddie to go through in more detail, just to make members aware, in your packs, Appendix A and B for this item are the results of the residents and businesses online consultation survey. Appendix C is those 35 written responses, which we've summarised. Appendix D is a summary also of comments that came through via social media when we were sharing the consultation. So we had, I think, 507 comments in response as well. And then Appendix E is the presentation, which Eddie is going to take you through in a moment. So I think overall, it would probably be fair to say that the responses we got through the online consultation and from people when we were speaking to them as well seemed to align pretty much. We got quite a lot of the same feedback in person from what we picked up from the online consultation. Chair, you were at, I think, all of those in-person events, so hopefully you would agree with that. I will pass over to Eddie now. So Eddie's going
Eddie,
to
sorry, I should have said that you're going to cover with the part of this. Thank you.
So I'll pass over to Eddie now. So Eddie's going to go through the results of the online consultation in a bit more detail and then take any questions at the end from members as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Eddie Holmes from the Business Intelligence team. I've put together some analysis from the Nighttime Economy Survey, and there was, already mentioned, there was a good response rate to this of 1,004 people and 9 businesses responded to the online survey. And generally, there was a negative view of the nighttime offer in Luton, considering the offer to be poor and with concerns about safety. Most of the survey respondents would like improved food and entertainment options, as well as better policing in the town centre. About half of the respondents don't visit the town centre after 6 p.m. While negative responses were strongest amongst those who don't visit the town centre, I also isolated the analysis from the ones who do, and they were also, whilst not as, was a little more positive, but overall it was negative there. There was an underrepresentation of people in the 18 to 30 bracket in the survey, which is unusual, which is quite a common characteristic on surveys. And the 9 business respondents had similar issues to the residents, as well as concern about declining footfall. So the first one is to the question, how often, this is to individuals, how often do you visit the town centre? And just over half the respondents said they never visited the town centre. 26% were once a month, and 15% a few times a month, and 7% of respondents visited once a week. And overall, the perception of the nighttime economy, when all survey respondents, including those who don't visit the town centre, the overall consensus was that it was either 55% considered it to be very poor, with 31% consider it to be poor, when just those who visit the centre at night time concerned it was slightly improved, but still 41% considered had a negative perception of the nighttime economy, and 39% considered it to be very poor. And of the perception of the town centre safety, this was a major concern in the survey. 48% of all respondents considered it to be very unsafe, and 31% somewhat unsafe, whereas when it was just those who visited the town centre, there were still 31% who considered it to be very unsafe, and 36% somewhat unsafe. And the opinion of the food and drink options amongst all of the respondents, 36% were very dissatisfied, and 32% just dissatisfied with when it was isolated just for those who visit the town centre. 24% were very dissatisfied, with 36% dissatisfied. And on to people didn't have a good perception of the entertainment options, with a whole survey, 44% considered it to be very poor, with 37% poor, when it was just those who visited the town centre, it was 42% considered it to be poor, and 30% considered it to be very poor. Whereas this was the most positive responses were getting around the town centre, where most respondents considered it to be, as 36% considered it to be somewhat easy, and 13% considered it to be very easy. And how easy do you find it to get into the town centre, and also how easy do you find it to get around the town centre? Again, most there were 36% considered it to be somewhat easy, and very easy was 27%. So largely people did not have issues with getting into the town or getting around the town. And so to summarise from some of the text and option questions. The main reasons people have for visiting the town centre after 6 p.m. were entertainment, e.g. cinema, bowling, dining at restaurants, cafes, visiting pubs, bars, attending cultural events, shopping and personal services. And also the question where people were given a list of responses, what would people most like to see in the town centre? There was quite a variety of responses to this: live music events, high quality restaurants, theatre or comedy shows, pubs, bars, outdoor events or festivals, nightclubs, outdoor markets, more affordable restaurants, leisure activities such as bowling and indoor golf, cinema or film screenings, nighttime shopping and sports and fitness. There's quite a variety of response considerations for this. And looking at, and this is a breakdown of those who responded, it was just 7.9% of the respondents were between 18 to 30, and comparing to the population as a whole, which is 20%, the indication of underrepresentation there. 51.8% were aged between 31 to 45, with 33% 46 to 59, and 7.4% were 60 and over. And gender, it was 54% male and 45% female respondents. So that's the end of the presentation. Any questions?
Thank you for the data and the information. Not suggesting you were expecting any results, but has any of that come as a shock or a surprise?
I think because, as I said, we had some of those in-person events, it very much aligned with what we were hearing from people directly. So I think in that sense, no, I think we're probably always, just a slight caveat to the data is that we're obviously coming at this from a perspective of talking about how we improve the nighttime economy. So I think we're going out and targeting people to understand what they don't like. So I think that will skew always with a slight negative, but I think we were expecting that, I think we've started this piece of work on the basis that we know the nighttime economy is a weakness that we have in terms of the overall visitor economy. We know we've got some big opportunities coming with the developments happening in the town, with Universal Studios potentially nearby, airport growth. But we know the nighttime economy is sort of the weak link in that, which is why we're doing this piece of work. So I think in that sense, I think we expected that we would get somewhat negative response. I think the only thing I would say is that on some of those, there's perhaps a bit of a difference between people's perception and some of the reality. And so the handout that we've shared around events, I think, is just to illustrate that I think in some areas there's a very strong perception, for example, that there isn't a great offer, but actually we know there's quite a lot of events happening in the town, a huge amount this year in particular. So I think there's some areas where the reality really matches the perception, and some areas where something's not quite fitting in terms of people's perception is not quite what we know actually exists in terms of that offer being a lot stronger.
So how can we combat that perception? Because that list is quite exhaustive, and a lot of people ask for the activities, the events which are happening here. So is it a question of we're not communicating out to the residents specifically, or we're not targeting the right people in relation to those events? And I know they're all run by different organisations, and I attend quite a few of them myself. I was quite surprised to see those notes compared to what people perceive. And you could be out every night of the week, couldn't you, if you had the time?
Yeah, I think there's multiple reasons. The first thing that we always come back to is to say, can we market things more? I think we're doing quite a lot in terms of marketing. Different partners are. Step Forward Luton, the What's On guide we've got, is doing a much better job of promoting cohesively the offer in the town. But I think it is a bit more complex than that. I think part of it is we've got a lot of events that have started up in the last year or two, and it takes time sometimes for people to get to know that these events happen regularly. So there's an element of kind of continuing with them and people getting to know that these things are happening in Luton more as well. And then I think the other thing that we've probably found as well is there's a lot of people that are coming in to go to a particular venue or a particular event, but they're not then experiencing the rest of the nighttime offer. So I think we had a good example when we went to the Library Theatre, Councillor Stevens, where there were a lot of people we spoke to that said, don't really come into the town centre at night. They were there on that particular night and they said, well, we come to things at this venue because we like the offer here, and they don't really then explore. So there's something about how do we get people to, if they're coming in for one thing, how do we get them to then see the rest of the town centre offer and not just keep coming back as loyal customers to that one place? How do they kind of, you know, go and have a meal, go out to another place as well? So I think that's really key as well, is how we kind of make that cohesive offer clear to people.
Good, please. I have sympathy with what Councillor Marshall has actually said. We've got 9 pages of different activities that either are daytime that go into the night or that are specifically from the night. And yet, if we were to ask any of those people on the survey about them, I guarantee they would not know about what is available. And I think that there is a communication problem. There's a communication problem not just on the entertainment side and what's available, but also on the security. A lot of work has gone into by the police across the summer. A lot of work has gone in jointly with the enforcement team, and we are not getting out that information. I don't know if other councillors, when they talk to residents and they say, "Oh, we wouldn't go into the town centre at night. It's dangerous. There are people begging," and it's the perception. And somehow we need to overturn that perception and show the positives that are happening, because then that's the only way that we're really going to encourage more people to come into the town centre. And so I think we need to look again at what we are doing on the communications model, both with regard to the entertainment and the provision, and also on to the issue of security and safety. I know there are things that we want to do. We've seen, which we'll come on to, that others are doing in other cities and other towns. But we need to be able to get out a strong message about the fact that Luton is fairly safe at night, and we've done a lot to improve that. And there's a lot of things that are going on and a lot of more activities that will be going on so in order to encourage people to come in. Councillor Henning.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I share some of your sentiments. I think a couple of things that would help is fellow members, councillors, were also communicating positively. And when it comes to this offer, perhaps I think it needs to be more wide-ranging in terms of something for everyone. Because some of this, I mean, the Bear Club is a bit niche. Some would know particular tastes of music, particular types of shows. I mean, and also we can help promote. I mean, the Bear Club's got something on all the time. The Library Theatre, the Hat Factory. One thing that hasn't helped is that the Herald Post and the local press is kind of dying a slow death, so that we're not getting that out. And I think we as a council, I think we need to do a lot to communicate what's going on, beyond what's there. And then couple, so if somebody says, "Oh, there's communication happening," then we've got to ask, is what's being put on offer, what people want, and then perhaps we could do a survey of people what they would like to see, and then help to try and deliver that. And then, but again, the safety aspect does come back into that. And I think we need to get our messaging out to create a positive atmosphere. I certainly feel safe, at the town centre, and I know a lot of work has been done with that. But on top of that, I think we need to have a word with the people operating the Galaxy, because that area around there is a bit unwelcoming. So I think we need to work with the partners in the town centre to create that positive feel, positive vibe to encourage people to come in. And try to work with the private sector, because I see with that word bubble, the biggest word there was restaurants. We're not in the business, well, it's not our job to open restaurants, but let's just try to encourage more to happen.
Thank you, Chair. I think when you say that the comms is not good enough, it's a bit of an understatement. I mean, I don't know half the events that are going on either. I like to think I'm quite so tech savvy. So I think definitely we've got to improve on the communications. We do have a lot to offer, and I don't think we're shouting out enough about it. So I think that's the area. Again, safety as well. I talked to a lot of residents. They said, yeah, we just don't feel safe. So I think that is clearly it's come across from the survey as well that's residents feel that. So we've got to do a lot more work on the safety as well, make the town centre a lot more welcoming. There is a lot going on. I just think we need to shout out a bit more louder, if possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
With your
Oh,
permission,
sorry.
could I ask a question as
Sorry.
well, actually?
Yes, of course. I'm sure if Amy actually came in. Councillor Nichols came in first. Sorry, could you? Oh, okay. Sorry, Jack.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, it was a question for Eddie on the 1,004 people that responded. Do we have a further breakdown of that in terms of age profile of the people that did actually respond? And from that as well, a geographic breakdown of, was that 1,004 people all Lutonians? And if they were from across the town, they may have been coming from, which I think also might be helpful in terms of some other things connected with that.
There wasn't a geographic, they did give a geographic breakdown. There was an age breakdown though, and as mentioned in the presentation, there was an underrepresentation of younger people answering the survey.
I saw that, but I was more interested in those people that did respond, in what was the age cohort that was greatest?
It's
So I think
31 to 45.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's sorry, I must have missed the point. So of the 31 to 45, what was that as a percentage of the 1,004?
That's it was 52%.
Okay.
Of the
So nearly half were above that age cohort. Yeah. So the reason I was asking that question is I generally agree with the point about communication, and we can do it better. But actually, it's about getting under the skin of different age profiles might use different communication methods, because I'm conscious of the fact that every single event that we do in the town centre is put out through our socials, through our web, and so on. But actually, nearly 50% of the respondents are perhaps in an age category where maybe aren't on social media or aren't looking through the web. There's something else we might need to do.
I was just to add to that, Chair. I think we do find, I think in general, that group is underrepresented, younger people, in most consultation surveys. I think one example of one thing we did do is go out to the university, and we did have a good focus group with the students there. But it is often challenging. I think even when we did the in-person pop-up events, difficult to get young people to come over and engage. I think the majority of people we spoke to were in that same overrepresented age category of sort of 31 to 45 and a little bit older. So but yeah, totally accept that as a point around we need to do more to engage those people.
Yeah, so can I just ask, how are we communicating? Obviously, you see the emails going out, Facebook posts, but is there anything else that we're using?
So specifically for the consultation, we posted on through all council social media. We did the in-person events as well, so that we captured people in places where they were. In terms of how we promote all of our events, we do that across multiple social media sources. So we do promote our events on TikTok. Quite a lot of our events are aimed at younger audiences and families as well. I think it'd be useful perhaps to get members' feedback at some point around the events that we've shared on that handout as well, just in terms of which ones people are feeling they don't know much about, and people within your communities that you represent, which ones people are less aware of. Because I think there's the ones which are organised by the council, which we promote, and then there's some by partner organisations. I'm aware that some of the partner organisations have got very limited resource in terms of marketing. So some of them, it's very difficult for them to put stuff out and get it out kind of well in advance and out to a wide audience. We do try and share and promote some of that through our channels as well, but that depends on them coming up with their marketing early enough so that we can share that in good time for people to see it as well. So just conscious that some partners have got very limited marketing resource as well.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Henny, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. An observation and a question. I think especially Chorley End and the Gypsy Lane retail parks are growing a lot more. Do you feel that they're perhaps in a way undermining the town centre offer? And the other thing is, I don't see parking being addressed here in this survey, because speaking to some shop owners in Chapel Street, they feel that a lack of access to parking is putting off people coming to their restaurants. So any thoughts from yourselves about, is parking a hindrance, and do you think that's something that we need to address in this in this forum?
Yeah, so in regard to the first point, we haven't asked anything specifically in any of our consultations around other areas of the town potentially taking people away from the town centre. But I think one of the headlines really from this is that over half of our respondents said they don't come into the town centre at all, really, in the evening. So whether that's because of other places in Luton or whether they're going out of town altogether, they're obviously there where they are going out, they're going to other places. So we know that overwhelmingly quite a big chunk of our population that responded are not coming into the town centre in the evening. In terms of parking, so I think we did ask some questions around transport, which are in the report as well. I don't think parking came out as a really challenging one. Transport in particular came out fairly well in terms of most people found getting into the town centre not too difficult. I think when we had the in-person consultation session at the Library Theatre, there were lots of people that said they tend to come in by taxi if they're going out and drinking anyway or anything like that, whereas some people did mention parking and the cost of parking, but it didn't seem like people had that much difficulty getting into the town centre and having a way of getting in and out, whether that's public transport, taxis, cars. That didn't come out as a really big challenge within the report. But I appreciate there are some areas where people find that more difficult. I think in terms of parking, there was probably more around the safety impact and the getting from where you park to where you want to go. That seemed to be more the sort of theme that was coming through in terms of people's thoughts around parking, being able to park close enough to the venue they want to go to or the place they're going to.
Sorry, just back on that demographics point. You said you didn't capture geographical data of where the response was from. Did we capture any like demographic data in terms of like ethnicity data to work out what sort of representation there was in responses? Because there'll be very different needs from very different communities and desires about what may be in our town centre.
Yeah, no, we only asked for age and gender. There is a location, it's like a location stamp thing, but it came through for very minimal numbers, so there wasn't enough data from that to be able to show a breakdown of exactly where people were coming. It was a very small number that we got a location. And the other challenge with that is around I think it's where they were at the time that they answered the survey. So if they're doing it on their phone, it's not necessarily reliable in terms of where they live. So we'd only broken down by age and gender for this survey. Quite often with ethnicity data, we find that a lot of people don't respond to that. All of the demographic data is optional. And once people start going through it, they start to tick the non-answer for a lot of that. So we just kept to age and gender just to keep it shorter, because it was quite a long and detailed survey.
Any other points? We are asked through the recommendations that the task and finish groups are recommended to consider the data provided in this report as part of the recommendations in the final report. Are we happy to go with that recommendation? Everybody happy? But could we please ask, not separate to the recommendation, that we have a further look at the communication plan, and that perhaps together with Inspector Sangera or Inspector Simmons and also with the enforcement team, to see if we can put better communication out also with regard to safety and security. I know there are other things that are coming up that we will probably be looking to recommend that we've seen in our visit to Leeds and also in some of the discussions that we've started to have with other towns and cities. So if we could look at that, because I think that would make it's an interesting point that more is happening than people are aware of. That is a clear factor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to highlight as well to everybody, you will have received invites to some roundtable discussion sessions that we're planning for next month. So some of those items I think we can pick up within that. So we've got one which is very specifically focused around marketing of the nighttime offer. We've got one which is very focused around safety. And so through both of those, we can probably talk about the communications around safety. And we've also got one which is focused on transport. So just to the point earlier around bringing back the data around the bus discounted travel. Hopefully we'll be able to get some data at that meeting. If it's available sooner, it can probably be shared sooner, but we can talk about that in that session as well, I think.
Corey, we have got these roundtable meetings, so perhaps up through Angela, we can circulate those to see if we can get more members. Obviously, many are working, picking up Councillor Hanif's point. But if some might be available, it would be very useful that they could make a contribution to some of these I think we have 2 big sessions coming up. Do you recall the date?
So there's 5 sessions in total. There's 2 on the 12th of September and 3 on the 16th. Aware that lots of members are working in the day. We've gone for sort of late afternoon, early evening for most of them, because most of the partners that we're inviting tend to find it easier in the daytime, particularly some of the nighttime venues. So just want to make sure that we can maximise as many of those being able to attend as possible. So yeah, 12th and 16th of September they're scheduled in for.
Thank you. So that recommendation then is approved, Angela. And those other reports will be coming at a later stage. So I'd like to move us on then to the next item, which I think is coming forward, being presented by Sinead and Sarah Doherty, and that is for the new town centre delivery plan for Luton. I'm not quite sure which of the two. Are you starting, Sinead?
Yeah, a bit of a double act. I'm going to do most of the talking and Sarah's going to be my glamorous assistant. So what I thought would be helpful is, just before I go into the town centre delivery plan itself, just to get to a bit of scene setting and a bit of background around the operational side of what we're doing in the town centre, and then moving into the strategic delivery. So just to start off, we've talked about it a bit just in the first item, but back in September 2024, we formed the Town Centre Task Force. That's been going now for almost a year. It's been making some really good progress, but we set that up really to focus on the difficult and knotty issues that were impacting our town centre on a daily basis, partners have come together to look at those very acute issues and how we tackle them without delay, how we promote a safer and more welcoming town centre, and how we look at having a better experience, particularly around improved perceptions and attracting people back to the town centre. And it is very much issues-led and evidence-led. So we use that at every meeting to shape the agenda going forward. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the successes over the last 10, 11 months. And what we'll do is we'll shape an annual report as well. So members will get to see the success over the last year. Sorry, it's just playing catch up. The success over the last year of the task force and what it's going to do going forward. So some of the key successes include the co-location of the Beds police team, so the police team with our net officers as well, and they're based in the town hall. I'm hoping that everyone will have seen a much bigger visible presence of both the police and the net team across our town centre footprint. We've done lots of work around joint patrols with the Luton Point security and a number of seasonal days. So there was lots done over Christmas, and there's been quite a lot of activity over the summer programme. That has led to a number of multi-agency days and a number of successes through that. Some evening walkabouts, and I understand that the Nighttime Economy Task and Finish Group also took part in some of those, the walkabouts and the experience there. Alongside that, though, it hasn't all been around safety. We've also looked at how we've activated our town centre, so the events and the work that Corey and his team lead. We've also had, it says 2 up there, but we've actually had 3 pieces of public art over the last 12 months. So the one on the back of Luton Point, the one on the ABC Cinema, which we've talked about briefly tonight, and then the one down on Guildford Street. And there's been extensive lobbying on our railway station, which we will all agree needs to be upgraded. There's been a bit more around our social media activity. So we've hosted a number of Facebook Live events, which the members of public have taken part in a live Q&A with police and council staff, including our net team. We have done quite a lot around comms, and I will take back the feedback from this group. We are just about to put back in place a dedicated town centre fortnightly meeting, which will happen across the partners around how we really go out again and look at this. So I know that that's a challenge across the piece. We've refreshed the town centre intervention group. So that is very much focused on those with complex needs. So it targets the work that we're doing with those individuals. There's been a lot of partnership working around promoting safe and family-friendly events that take place across our town centre. And we have really looked at other events as well. So picking up some of the feedback that Councillor Haniff has said around targeting different audiences. And I hope that members have started to see that over the last few months. You're not going to be able to probably read the next one, but this just pulls out some of the successes around actual outputs. So the number of fixed penalty notices around littering, some of the fixed penalty notices around those who have breached the public space protection order, number of fly tipping notices around fly tipping itself, and just some of those general stats that we've done. And I'm more than happy to share the slides so members can really look at that in detail. And then we've moved on to our very focused Keeping Town Centre Safe campaign. So this is a national campaign that was led by the Home Office, and Luton Town Centre and Bury Park have been part of this initiative. And it's been very focused on visible policing and local authority interventions and how we look at reducing antisocial behaviour, retail crime and street-based violence. So over that time, we have increased our net officers from 2 to 4. And that's also included 2 team leaders and 8 officers overall. The core working hours have increased. Originally, they were 8 till 6, and they've now increased till 8 until 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, and have increased over the weekend as well, as have the police. And we've had lots of feedback around seeing a real visible improvement there. I'm just seeing if there's anything. Sorry, just moving on to the next slide, Sarah. These are some of the successes from July and August. So there's been 5 dedicated operations that have prioritised antisocial behaviour in the town centre, which included 7 arrests, 27 stops and searches, which included 9 positive results in terms of what come from those searches. So that was drugs and weapons confiscated and taken. There's been a number of operations that have continued, which have been very much focused on targeting robbery and drug-related crime through high visibility patrols and lots of plainclothes operations as well. So the total statistics that we've been looking at over that time is 58 arrests, 6 knives have been seized in the town centre over the summer. So we are seeing positive results in terms of additional police and net support. But it hasn't all been, as I said, around safety. We've looked at how we could complement all that additional police resource going in and net resource around activating our town centre. So we've had the big screening for much of the summer, which has shown Wimbledon, the Women's Euros, and is currently showing the 100 cricket. We've had summer sounds on Saturdays. We've had morning yoga, which was today. And then we've been doing fitness in St George's Square on a Wednesday evening. And it's not just been the council, partners have also activated the space. The bid have had the park lit in from the 23rd of July and it's in until the 2nd of September. And they've been hosting a number of events in that space, which has all been free. We've had the £1 bus fares in the evening, and that's the data that I'm going to feed back to the group around how much that's been taken up and whether we can look at further work in terms of increasing or looking at that nighttime demand on buses. We've also looked at £1 parking in our council car parks in the evening, and that's more data that we can get from Tony and the team around how much that's been used during that time. To help with some of the promotion, we've done a lot around town dressing. So all of the lamppost banners in the town centre have been taken. And we've also looked at those outside of the town centre, so those in Borough Park and those in the immediate space around the town centre as you approach it. There's been a number of new shops that have opened in Luton Point, which are attracting people back to the town centre, and lots of positive feedback around those shops and the offer there. And what we've been doing is looking at how we can have a number of events in September as well. And those events, not just being family friendly, but looking at how we focus on the nighttime economy piece. So we're going to do some work with the castle on the 12th of September around activating a stage there and bringing in some live music. And then on the 27th of September, doing a live music and food event in Hat District. So again, targeting different audiences, and hopefully we'll really target those students that are returning or starting in September. So we've got a big promotional campaign with Freshers Week. So in terms of the strategic piece of the town centre delivery plan, so for those of you who are aware, we had the town centre master plan, which we launched in 2021, and the town centre delivery plan is very much how we take the vision and put it into life and reality. So it very much is the delivery arm of the town centre master plan. We've been doing this in close collaboration with our partners and stakeholders who sit across the town centre. So not just a council piece of work, we need everyone who plays a key role in the town to drive this forward with us. These key priorities, again, are grounded in evidence to maximise the opportunities to meet the needs of our residents and the businesses who make up our town centre. It's a high-level framework with a number of shared actions across the 6 themes, which I'm going to talk to you in a bit more detail. So in terms of the town centre delivery plan itself, I'm hoping that members have had a chance to have a look through the draft town centre delivery plan, but it's set out as 6 themes. So theme 1 is around the economic diversity and diversity of spaces. Theme 2 is place activation and sense of place. Theme 3 is around cleaner, greener and a more beautiful public realm. Theme 4, which is a safer town centre for all. Theme 5 is around inclusion and accessibility. And theme 6 is around promotion and inward investment. So how we've split it up is into these different sections in our town centre. So the first is Station and Hat District. So our flagship project there is the stage development. which is 292 new homes, a community space, and a space which will be activated for up to 600 people. It will have a new public square, extensive improved public realm and cycle hub. But also within this space is the station redevelopment, which is absolutely critical to improving our town centre. And then Openly Phase 2, which is a project that we will come back and talk to members in a bit more detail about. Moving on, Power Court, which is the new football stadium in the heart of our town centre. 25,000 capacity. We're hoping that their first full season played will be 28-29. There are further plans to come forward on this, which includes new homes, a hotel and a music venue. It will deliver at least 1,000 direct jobs once it's completed, and also 1,000 in the process as they build and the construction and all the work that sits alongside that and the work in terms of the supply chain. Moving on to Church Street and East, we are looking forward to hearing more about the university's master plan. So lots of really good work happening there, which they're taking forward. There's some work that St Mary's Church are doing, which ties in with the work that the football club are doing and how they align. There's a great piece of work happening between the university and the hospital around bringing in some health facilities there. It's not quite ready yet for the public domain, but we will talk to you in a bit more detail about what that looks and feels like and how that's coming forward. And then we've started to have some really good conversations with Luton Point around how that space, particularly that end of town, looks and feels and how that operates and the opportunities there. So lots of really exciting work happening in Church Street and East. Moving on to George Street and West. So an extensive public realm programme is planned for George Street itself. That's going to be one of the first pieces of public realm that will come forward, led by the council in terms of how that looks and feels. And we can bring a bit more detail back to members on that if they're interested in finding out more. That also includes the feasibility of the ABC cinema, which we know is something that lots of stakeholders and partners talk to us about. And then how we look at the promotion of that space and how we make sure that people come back and use that space once the public realm has gone in. The food and restaurant offer as it leads up to Wellington Street and other parts of town. So lots of work that we need to still do in the George Street space of moving that forward. St George's Square, again, lots of really great work planned for this area. It's going to be a refurb of Luton Central Library. We've been looking at the Library Road car park as a rebuild there. So that picks up the question around additional car parking. And I know that was one of the questions from earlier. And there'll be a redesign of St George's Square and how we use that space. I think we'll all agree that it's not been used to its potential yet. So a real opportunity there for us to take that forward about how we use it for events and other activities. And then the final strand is around the town centre wide piece. So we talked a lot around safety and how that factors across that whole town centre footprint and the public health interventions that we need to make. It is about how we pull all the levers at once. So there's no point in us tackling the safety if we haven't got the activation right. There's no point in addressing the public health if we don't have the offer and we're tackling the safety. So we need to do all of this together. So we need to make sure that this plan is activated across all of those 6 themes if we're really going to deliver the town centre plan that we need and want. So this final part of the plan brings it all together around, as I say, public health, enforcement, licensing, place activation and town dressing. So how do we tell people about our town, but how does our town feel when people come in and it's welcoming for visitors and our residents most importantly. So then in terms of next steps operationally, so the summer safety programme continues till the end of September. We will do a report back through the town centre task force and I'm more than happy to share that with this group as well. The task force meets monthly and will continue to, and the chair of this group is a member of that group as well. There's lots of data insights and reports produced monthly which help us to be intelligence led in terms of how the group operates and where we focus our attention going forward. There's lots of work around how we continue to grow that partnership piece. One of the next focus areas for the task force is around e-bikes and scooters and how we tackle that ongoing problem there. And that's going to start with an education piece as the first strand. How we tackle the ongoing drug taking and antisocial behaviour in our town centre is still a major part of the task force group in terms of how they focus their attention. We will look at more events for the autumn and into the Christmas period and how we celebrate that whole period over 4 weeks. So we've done a great job last year, and I think there's lots of learning from that in terms of how we shape the programme for 2025. And then again, the comms piece, we know it's absolutely critical and vital to us getting all of this right in terms of how we communicate with our residents and visitors, and of course members and wider stakeholders. And then finally, the next steps for the strategy itself. So we will sign off. Hopefully, we'll take your feedback from the town centre on the town centre delivery plan, and then it goes on to executive. It's going to be formally launched at an event in early November, which members will be invited to. We'll continue our strong partnership working around how we deliver the town centre across the wider ecosystem. And we'll continue to monitor progress so we can make sure that we're feeding back, that we're delivering against these actions that we've set out in the town centre delivery plan. Again, I've put it there as the penultimate bullet point, which is a really strong comms plan, both strategically and operationally. And then the final bit, which is really important to this group, is the visitor economy plan. So we will take your recommendations and all the learning from this work and everything we're doing across the economic growth strategy that will feed into a new visitor economy plan for the town. So thank you. That was a whistle-stop tour, but hopefully it's covered the key points.
Open for questions or comments? No. Councillor Marshall?
That's a lot going on, isn't there? I find that really, really exciting, having been a Luton resident for sort of 30 plus years now. So thank you for sharing that with us. When's it going to be all finished? Being cheeky. In terms of the delivery for this, how many years are you going to be working across this for that plan to be delivered? It's obviously not going to happen overnight.
So the town centre delivery plan, I want to say that the key parts that we're focused on are 3 to 5 years in terms of delivery. So much of that should be done by 2030, 2031 at the latest. So the two big flagship projects for the town centre, which is Power Court and the stage development, in terms of those, they are due to be completed by 2028, 2029. The public realm piece will be done over the next 12 months in terms of George Street, St George's Square, I want to say 2 to 3 years. Yep. Looking back to Gerard, who's here as well. And then how we bring forward the Library Road car park, that should come forward quite quickly. And the library might be slightly longer. But yes, I'm very confident that 3 to 5 years is the bulk of that delivery plan in terms of how we make that tangible and real for our residents.
I've got a couple of points, if I may. One is to do with restitching the centre, which is joining up areas of the town centre that have been disconnected. Or really, if we think of how our town centre is going forward and how we want it to go forward into the future, we've got the key area around George Street and St George's Square. But then on the other side of the point, we've got the Hat Factory and we've got Guildford Street. And one of the issues is how we enable people to get easily from one side to the other when at the moment there's a way through the point. I'm not sure it's open till all hours of the day, and people are having to go circumvent. We need to find a solution that allows the residents to get to the different parts, because at the moment they're kind of secluded in different areas, and I think that is a failing. I think if we were starting from the beginning again, we wouldn't have put the point where it is, because we've actually cut off parts of it. So what is the thinking about enabling residents, if they, for example, were going to an event that we're holding in Market Hill, but they wanted to go on to the Bear Club, how do people start to circumvent the current restrictions that allow that facility?
So I think there are a couple of things. So we are having some good conversations with Luton Point around that access straight through. But I think as our town centre transforms and different parts of it come to life, so Power Court and how people move around the town centre, it's our opportunity to think about that. And you know, if you're coming from Market Hill and you've got some nighttime entertainment down at Power Court, you would walk that way. So I think it's about how we think about how people move around our town centre. So we are having those conversations with Luton Point, but I think as we transform our town centre, how people move about it anyway will feel different. So the lighting, the town dressing, the walkways, that public finding piece is going to change with time, and how we help people navigate. So it's not uncommon for in a town centre, if you're going to different parts of it, to walk around. I think it's that people see Luton Point as a barrier, which it isn't. You can till quite late get through, but I think it's about how we support that walking around our town centre. So the lighting, as I say, the town dressing, that sort of public space use of it, and you know, our public realm and how we take our town centre forward, I think over the next 12 to 18 months would change anyway. And then as Power Court comes on and the stage, it will operate in a completely different way anyway. So I think we need to think about that. The bit through Luton Point, we totally agree, and Roy and the team are very open to discussions around that. But I think there are opportunities for us to think about how people move around our town centre. And I don't think it's not a huge amount of steps to walk around. I think it's just people see it as a barrier through. But if we've got more on offer, we want people to be able to go to Wellington Street, have some food, walk up, go to a bar, you know, go to a different destination throughout. So you should be able to move around our town centre in a different way. But at present, there's not enough of an offer at each of those places. So they are going to one place and then potentially thinking, I need to get to the other side. We want them to travel around it. So I think we as the council need to think about that as we take this forward as well. You're going to come?
I think it must be quite easy to shut her off. I don't think they do it at the moment. So when you're going through the point, you should be able to shut her down next to where the Muffin Cafe is, and then on the other side where H&M store, whatever it is. Now, I mean, if it's closed, it'll make it safe, because there's not going to be any vandalism or whatever that goes on in the rest of the point. So there must be a way of making it safe and easy access. Sorry.
Councillor Stevens, if I could just come in on that. Actually, I think they do shut it off until about midnight.
Yeah.
So you can get through. I think there may be an issue at the moment just because they're doing some work to the escalator at the back of it, so that may be causing the issue. But generally, you can go through until midnight, and it is shuttered off. The other thing I just wanted to add as well, in terms of that, thinking about how we better connect and provide that access through the town. Sinead mentioned earlier the feasibility study for the Library Road car park. So in the thinking on that, so if you imagine the current Library Road car park site, what is being proposed is a multi-storey that only takes up half the site to the left. If you're looking at it towards the Galaxy, the rest of it will be enhanced public realm that creates that link between George Square through and out into the hat factory, for the very reason you were just outlining, actually, and how we better link those spaces. And with the new public realm in George Square, George Street and Market Hill, how that then links into Park Court. But we are starting to already think about some of those linkages.
Question is, on a similar theme, of making access to Power Court. So obviously we've got a busy road there at the moment. I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like in the future, but will there be underpasses, pedestrian underpasses, or a bridge that's going to allow safe access? Have we thought about how we go from roughly where the point is around Church Street across to what's going to be quite an exciting development going forward?
I don't have the drawings, but I don't remember seeing an underpass, but that whole area will be completely redesigned in terms of the pedestrian and road infrastructure.
Will still be, the busy road will still be there. I mean, we have got, we do make use of some pedestrian underpasses.
Not as a 4-lane. At the minute, it's a 4-lane carriageway. My understanding is that the public realm project that's being proposed as part of that will completely redesign that, slowing the traffic down, making it into single lane, giving priority to pedestrians.
Any other questions? Please, Councillor Latif.
So thank you, Sinead and Sarah, and for your presentation. Obviously, welcome the proposals and plans. We look forward to working with everybody to make sure they're delivered. My sort of question around is obviously the cost. I understand some of the projects are going to be provided by our partners. Obviously, some are by us, the council. How are we looking around the funding of the project? Because that's going to be a key part in making sure this is delivered on time, because it all boils down to money. Thank you.
As Sinead said earlier in our presentation, your point is absolutely right. There's elements of it will be delivered by the council, elements will be delivered by partners. So, for example, if we take the public realm scheme for George Square and George Street, that is built into the council's capital programme. So it's currently going through the business case process. We already have provision for some of the place activation work that's already taken place, and our partner organisations then will be delivering their components of it. So it is a key part of as we go through each step.
Thank you. We are asked, the recommendation is the task and finish group is asked to consider and comment on the draft town centre delivery plan. I think picking up Sinead's comment, I think it would be very useful to send your slides, if you could, so not just to the people here, but to the other councillors and to the co-optees, so that they can perhaps Corey, together with, we could share that more widely so that people can see something is really going on. And I did recall at the last town centre task force group that I asked Inspector Sangera if he could make a written. Do you remember I asked that? And he said he would, a fairly regular written safety update, policing and security updates. I think it would be quite useful for those to be shared more widely around the town, maybe at Let's Talk meetings and others. So we've got an opportunity. We have police coming to all the Let's Talk meetings normally. There's an opportunity that they don't just talk about the specific ward, but they come armed with other information about the town centre. Let's make use of it in a greater sense, if we may.
Particularly around not just the safety piece, but that members have got a whole pack of key town centre information. I'm looking at how we set up a dedicated space and better use on our website around, so members can click on it and get all the information they need in one place, so you aren't having to search around for different things. Even as much as now, if you want to go and talk about a key regeneration programme that's happening in our town centre, you can just click and find out about it. We just need a bit more of a central point that members and other partners can click in to find out about the town centre. So looking at a number of different ways that we can communicate both internally and externally with partners and colleagues, that they've got easy ways of gathering information that they can share with their residents and others. And we can continue to evolve that. So any feedback members have around, can it be something that I can share as a little WhatsApp with you know, a residents group, or I need a, you know, can I download a slide deck? It's just trying to keep it as up to date as possible. And that's always the challenge, because even these stats that I've read out today, I know that there's a new set of stats that are, you know, are going to come out tomorrow. And, you know, it's that constant evolving data piece, that how do we make sure we keep members as up to date as possible and residents. And I think we need a shared space that everyone can access and get almost real time information about what's happening. Where are we with safety? Where are we with events? Where are we with the town centre regeneration programme? So we are on it, and Sarah and Jenny are working on that comms town centre piece and how we're better at that. And there's still more for us to do, but we're taking the learning and the feedback, and we'll get that out to you ASAP.
I mean, sharing on through internet, etc., is great, or sharing on. But we have to remember we have a lot of elderly residents who definitely don't come into the town centre. So we need to be able to find ways to reassure them, and it's not going to be via by the internet or via, you know, we have to also provide some other forms that we could share with them. So we need to think about the different audiences that we're going to address. Well, the very good report and the very good feedback on the way forward. I'd like to move us please on to the next item, item 9, which is a report. Oh, no, not item 9. What have we got? Item 8, sorry, which is the meeting that took place with the economy business stakeholders. Corey, I hope you're going to lead us through this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as members will have noted, we didn't get great feedback in terms of the online consultation from businesses. So one thing that we did in addition was hold a supplementary meeting with which we invited businesses to, with really two purposes. One, to hear a bit more detail from them around what they would like to see in terms of the nighttime economy, and secondly, as an opportunity for the Nighttime Industries Association to share with them some ideas and some of the national trends as well that they've seen. Again, we struggled to get really good attendance at this meeting, so we did have a few local businesses attend, and representation from Luton Bid as well. So the meeting took place on the 9th of July. Councillor Stevens kindly chaired the meeting on behalf of the Task and Finish group. So myself and Councillor Stevens gave a presentation which gave an overview of the work of the group and the data that we've gathered so far. Michael Kill from the Nighttime Industries Association also gave a really detailed presentation around some of the national trends and also some of the policy interventions and initiatives that we could look at that are happening in other places. In terms of some of the key things that came out of the discussion that we had with businesses in the room, so similar to the consultation survey findings, safety came out as a really key concern for businesses, felt that that was a big concern for many of their customers and particularly a barrier to young people coming into the town. Businesses were also keen to look at opportunities to have more nighttime events that they could do in partnership with the council. So we've been picking that up in terms of looking at a couple of events that we're hoping to announce soon for next month, which are in partnership with the castle and with the Culture Trust. So two outdoor events in the evening. Also, some concerns raised around just challenges in terms of putting on events and engaging with the council around how to do that in a way that is easy to navigate. We're currently looking at a review of an events policy, which is going through members separate to this group as well, which will look at addressing some of those things and the process for which people can book events in the town and engage with us through our licensing team. And just in terms of some of the key things really that came through from Michael Kill in terms of suggestions. So he noted that there were some key themes that we need to look a little bit more at as a group. So regulatory framework in terms of licensing, a little bit more to understand some of the economic issues that impact some of the organisations in the town. And I think it'd be really good to get more input from some of the businesses. And we've got another roundtable discussion with some of those businesses, which hopefully will help us to understand those in a bit more detail. And the other thing that he noted was for this group, alongside their recommendations, to really think quite strongly about some of the data points for us to track success. So really kind of what should our measures of success be? He suggested would be a really good thing to have as part of the final report. So we know kind of what we're looking to achieve and how we measure that success on the back of the recommendations that come through from this report. Also, lots of really good suggestions around some other places to go and visit. We've got an item on that in a moment around a visit that we had to Leeds, but we've also been looking at other places that we can go to potentially visit, which I'll update on in the next item as well. And I think just the other thing that was noted really in the meeting was that it was recognised that there is among quite a lot of the partners a strong sense of belief and confidence in Luton, and this being a place that could generate and activate a really strong nighttime economy offer. And I think from some of the examples of other places that we've started to look at as well, and the Leeds example we'll talk about in a moment, there are some really good examples of places that have started to define what their nighttime offer is all about, and perhaps us being clearer around that and what our kind of USPs are is a really key thing for us to think about as well as a group. So that's just a brief summary of that session. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Councillor Marshall?
Just a question of engagement, Corey, with local businesses. So you said that the uptake to the event was pretty poor. How many businesses did you actually were invited and how many actually attended? Do you know off the top of your head?
So I don't have an exact number. We reached out to a few key venues that I'm in touch with. So several of those attended. So some of the key pubs in the town that do lots of nighttime events, the Culture Trust, the Library Theatre as well. And then in addition to that, we contacted all of the businesses through Luton Bid. So I'm not sure of the exact number. I'm not sure if Julia's still on the call. She might be able to give the exact number that goes out to through their newsletters, and also through Luton Point as well, although they're picked up within I think the Bid's membership as well. So I'm not sure the exact number, but Julia may be able to tell us the number of bids.
Julia might be able to help. Are you able to help, Julia?
Yeah, the mailing goes out to around 900 different individuals, but I think the primary thing was speaking to the businesses at Pub Watch. But it is difficult with the industry that a lot of those business owners are in to get the right time. So I do think a good recommendation to try and reach those businesses is to try and incorporate any discussions within their allocated Pub Watch meeting, because they have a obligation within their license to attend that meeting, so the attendance is generally good. But aside from that, I think it is quite difficult for them to come outside of their business, especially if it's a daytime. They're not necessarily they won't have started work, and if it's the evening they're working, so it is quite difficult. But they definitely were communicated with to attend. I feel comfortable to say that. Hopefully that covers that, Corey.
Yeah, sorry, just to correct myself as well, actually, in terms of the businesses that we'd have reached out to via the bid, it would have been predominantly focused on those nighttime based ones. Obviously, quite a lot of the bid businesses that get that mailing list probably wouldn't have had a huge interest in it if they don't have a nighttime focus at the moment. So it would have been predominantly some of the pubs, venues, those kind of ones that this would have been interesting to, because of what Michael Kill was bringing in terms of his information and presentation to the group. So I'm not sure the exact sort of numbers of how many have fit within that criteria, but it's not quite as many as the 900 individuals that Julia's got on the entire mailing list for businesses.
just to make a reminder, we have got these roundtable meetings that are coming up, and that was a good suggestion from Julia. Perhaps we could organise a separate session, Corey, where we go into the pub watch meeting when they've got an organised meeting, so we can get a bigger audience in that sense. There is one point that I was very interested in, which Michael Kill has said a few times, which is under the things of economics. Understand the economic issues within different organisations and how to subsidise culture and support businesses with things like economic relief. I've asked many people, many officers, and I still don't have a proper answer as to what monies are actually available, especially how we can support any businesses that want to start a new initiative. I had suggested to Dev, and I've also spoken to Gerard, who said he'd take it further to see if there's anything we can do on business rate discounts or holidays. If somebody wants to put on a new business, that's going to help the town. And I think we need to pursue that a bit harder, I think, going forward. Anyway, we have a recommendation. The recommendation is members of the Task and Finish group take the findings of the session into consideration when producing their final report. Is everybody happy with that recommendation? Yes? Then this brings us on to the last item on the agenda, which is the visit to Leeds. I'll hand it over to you, Corey, but I would like to come in on certain points, if I may.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So as I mentioned in the previous item, we are working on visits to several places. So we've got a couple of others that we're still pursuing. So we had a positive call with Bristol last week as well around a potential visit next month to there. And there's a couple of others that we're reaching out to. We've got a call with London's 24-hour team as well this week, I think that is. As well, to understand a bit more about the work that they do there. So we're looking at some other visits in addition to this. But so far we've had one visit, which we did to Leeds City Council on the 17th of July. So Councillor Stevens, Councillor Hussain, myself and Angela attended that session. So we had an afternoon where we went up and we had some presentations from some key officers within the Leeds City Council, their city centre management team and their visitor economy team. And then we had a really insightful tour of the city centre as well. So just to give people a little bit of context on Leeds and comparison with Luton. So Leeds is situated really right in the centre of the UK and right at the heart of Yorkshire as well. Population size of Leeds in the immediate city is 812,000, so almost 4 times the size of Luton in terms of population, and sits really at the heart of a region of about 3 million people. So it has really significant draw in terms of the population around it coming into the city centre. Like Luton, the population in Leeds is very young and very diverse. They also have 6 universities in the city, so that amounts to around 60,000 students living in and around the city as well. So that's a really key component in terms of their nighttime economy. In terms of their kind of really core offer, Leeds has got some really strong offers. So it's got Opera North, Northern Ballet, Phoenix Dance Theatre, First Direct Arena, Headingley Cricket and Rugby Stadium is quite central in the city as well. And one thing that they highlighted is they get generally 5 to 6 days of international cricket through either test matches or one days, sometimes both, in the city in a summer. And that brings a lot of people into the city in the day and evening. They also had Channel 4 has moved into the city in 2018, which is a big anchor for them now, right in the heart of the city centre. And they've got one of the most attractive shopping quarters in the country as well, certainly in the north of England. So Leeds does have quite a lot in terms of their immediate visitor offer. lots of things bringing people into the city. But I think they did have some challenges in terms of their nighttime economy, which they've had some good progress on over recent years, which I think we were able to draw quite a lot from. I think similar to some of the data that we've been picking up locally and nationally, the trends in terms of what people are looking for in terms of the nighttime economy are fast changing, particularly in terms of their population and demographics. So moving away from more of an alcohol-based nighttime offer, generally towards a more experience-based one, partly because of demographic changes, but also cost of living and health consciousness has impacted that for lots of people. So they described really their nighttime economy today as a really clustered mix of food, leisure, all sorts of experiences from bowling, darts, pool, table tennis, snooker. And they mentioned quite a lot of the rise of late night coffee bars as well being really key as well in terms of their nighttime offer now. And they said they've seen those trends really since sort of the mid 2010s. So I think very much in line with, I think in Luton, we've seen that shift away from a more alcohol based nighttime economy in that time as well.
Just come in slightly. Obviously, it's not a comparison. We can't make the comparison, but because it's a big city, we are a town. But there were things that they do which we can learn from. They make great use of their public squares, which is something that we really need to think about here within Luton. But more than that is the way that they've adapted some of their public realm. They've taken a number of these side streets that we have, for example, here in Luton, and they've completely transformed them. They've pedestrianised them and they've turned them into really good, popular restaurant streets where the people come out onto the pavement. And when you think about that, we could be doing that with Chapel Street. We could be doing that with, some of our other roads, and think about doing something with them and giving the opportunity for the restaurants that are there to come out onto the pavement to create more of a European style atmosphere. And I don't think we've actually gone into that. We've spent a lot of time talking about the public realm, but we've forgotten the side streets. And I think that's something that we could really learn from. The other thing is they make a great use in the safety aspect of apps. They have a very good app system. I forgot what it was called actually, Corey, but it's a thing that that people, when they're looking to go out and navigate around the town, they get all the information they need on an app, and it really covers all the safety aspects as well. They have a night bus for women at night. So for vulnerable women, it's something that I know that we have, the pastors used to have a bus. We need that bus back in, and it needs to be there for vulnerable people. So those were key things that I think that I kind of picked up. And the pop-up bars, in one of the squares, we could do it here, and I think hopefully it's going to happen when the castle have that live event in Market Hill, that they will also have a public bar. But we need to be doing more of that. We need to start to think more creatively. Sorry, I'll hand back to you, Corey. Sorry.
Yeah, so just to add to some of those points, I think, so in terms of the use of their public spaces, so they have more large scale sort of public spaces than we have in terms of big public squares. But there were two in particular that they showed us. One which is close to the station, which is similar size to St George's Square, I would say. And that was the one which was used for a pop-up bar. So it was a kind of large gazebo, nicely decorated kind of gazebo. And they had in there a pop-up bar and some live music as well, and then seating around the outside. So this is similar to what we're looking at trialing with our events in September, something like this. The way they operate that is as a commercial tender. So they go out to a company to activate that space in that way each year, and I think they've been doing that for several years, and that was incredibly popular. in terms of, they've got a larger public space then, which is around about, I would say, twice the size of St George's Square. And what they are doing in that space is, for I think it was about 6 weeks of the summer, they fence it off and they have ticketed outdoor events. So they have a big stage that they've put up. The stage they own rather than hire in. So most of our events where we've used a big stage before, if members think about things like the football promotion parties and things like that, we tend to hire those in. So they save some costs on that because they've got a very neat underground storage underneath their public square. So we don't have that, but if we could find similar solutions in terms of storage, there's an opportunity for us to look at doing something similar in terms of having our own equipment as they've done. As I say, they close off that public square and have ticketed events, so it essentially pays for itself and the costs of their events team running those events. That's for about 6 weeks in the summer, but of course that means then closing off a big public space that's not then open to the public for that period of time. So that's the kind of choice that they've made in terms of that space. The side streets they've activated really effectively. I think in each of those cases there were already some restaurants or bars operating down them, but a lot of them we can share around. If I can get the before and after pictures they showed us, they were really interesting in terms of the difference. And they haven't done anything particularly challenging in terms of major redesign of those streets. Some of them they've pedestrianised that did have traffic on them before, but ultimately it's been a bit of a clean up. It's been a bit of allowing restaurants to take over the space with their own seating, a little bit of lighting installation. So some fairly small changes to those spaces and allowing the business owners to take a bit of control of them has enabled them to activate those side streets really effectively. And yes, in terms of safety, so yeah, the app, the night bus, I think is in place generally Friday and Saturday evening. So it's not every night of the week, but it's those key nights when they're expecting lots of people in the city centre. They've got enforcement teams, pastors, I think they were called Night Angels. The app they use is called the Walk Safe app. I think it's used in a few places now. I think Leeds was the first place to trial that app, but it's made by a third-party company. So, and I think there are some other alternatives to that app that do similar things. But it's very good in terms of planning a night out. You can see reviews on places in terms of their safety. You can see where some of their enforcement officers are, locate them. People can track their friends and family on the app as well to see their location. You can see where the night bus space is as well. They're also part of some of those wider schemes that we're part of, I think, as well in Luton, things like the Ask for Angela scheme. They have CCTV, which is accessed, a centre which is accessed 24 hours a day, and all of their pubs are part of that with their radio systems and things like that. So there's some things that they do which are happening in lots of places, but they've got some really innovative actions in place around safety as well. So I think that covers everything as a summary, Councillor Stevens, but there's a bit more detail in terms of some of the things that we saw in the report. So I'm happy to take any questions from anybody.
Just to say, Corey, that we are planning a couple more visits, some to smaller places, and obviously we'd like to give the invitation out to councillors if they are available, and co-optees to join us if they're at all able to do so, and we'll make the details known as soon as the bookings are done. That's Ask and Finish Group are asked to consider the report and its findings for inclusion in the final report and recommendations of the group. It would be alongside the other visits that we're doing, so there will be presumably a composite that goes forward in the final report. And that, ladies and gentlemen,